Welcome and welcome back to the epic adventures covering our journey through the mmorpg Guild Wars 2. With this installment bringing with it a whole host of new experiences and vast landscapes, whilst taking a look into the game's third and most recent expansion, The End of Dragons, getting our hands on some sweet new tech, as well as Gizmo trying his hand at sailing with the local inhabitants.
2 seconds later.
Oh God, Your Majesty, I'm so sorry. It's fine. Leave it with me, I'll sort everything out. Just don't look behind you.
My name's Mitch Mannix, and I'm proud to present the next chapter of this adventure with a look into Guild Wars 2, The End of Dragons. After such an incredible experience in Path of Fire, the story leads straight into the Living World Season 4, an Icebrood saga, with both again featuring an insane amount of content. There's a whole lot to talk about here, and I'll be making a return to the Living World content a little later in the video. But another dark entity unfurls its wings across the land. So with no time to lose, we make the journey via the introductory mission to the land of Cantha, which safe to say doesn't exactly go to plan. That is one fucked up Pokemon. After putting some of the locals' minds to rest for now, we get a look at the absolutely stunning looking landscapes of the early expansion zones. Guild Wars 2 yet again showcasing a masterful use of colour and creativity in its zone design, with some of the best looking visuals to date. And of course featuring plenty of events and activities to get involved in while working through the story, to the delight of most of its player base. The words of burning toilet actually being quite an apt bit of foreshadowing, as for some reason looks to be in Gizmo's near future, judging by his face while getting a chance to take to the seas with one of the local inhabitants. After getting a look around the Xingje Monastery and progressing through the core plotline, we head over to the zone's training area, which serves not only as a useful place for new players hopping straight into the new expansion to get a grip of the basics of combat, but also provides a nice buff to experience game for a number of hours after completion, a perfect addition to grab before further exploring into End of Dragons. As for the content itself on offer, the lands are again filled with events ranging from small-scale quick quests to absolutely massive battles, requiring an army of players to complete. Hero and mastery points are strewn around the land once more to assist players in diving into the new mastery lines, as well as the new elite specializations unlocked for each class with the expansion. And without drifting into spoiler territory, the plotline is as gripping and humorous as players of the previous content have grown accustomed to.
Surprised?
Not in the least. How do we find her?
You can track them using the ship transponders. Also, hello? I'm still trapped out here.
Adventuring further into this new world, it's not long before we're tasked with acquiring our own mode of transport across the seas, with a short introductory mission explaining the basics before unlocking Gizmo's own Skipper, a new feature for the expansion to not only allow for enjoying another newly obtainable skill of fishing, but also a great way to travel across the expansion, but for me at least took a bit of time to get used to it, while displaying the locals' clear overestimation of Gizmo's seafaring abilities. With a number of new masteries to progress and a new mode of transportation, Gizmo headed further inland to the grand city of New Kaineng, a beautiful location which for me is one of the most impressive large settlements in the game. Incredibly stylized and well constructed, but also feeling a lot more alive and lived in than some of the previous cities in the game, and a perfect place for Gizmo to get his noodle on. It's in New Kaineng, while further progressing through the story, that we get our hands on yet another interesting feature introduced with End of Dragons, that being the Jade Bot Mastery, a highly useful robot companion that can be used for a whole range of utility abilities, including granting access to use the land zip lines, creating a personal waypoint for fast traveling, and even boosting the player higher while gliding. Jade bots can also be upgraded with modules to allow for further buffs and bonuses, like hunting down a particular material, recycling items, and adding bonus power to the bot's core abilities. Sliding through the remainder of the expansion story, it's clear to see a focus on bringing a more cinematic feel to the game's narrative, with some incredible performances coupled with epic feeling cutscenes to tell the expansion's tales. And for the story lovers, ArenaNet have done well at rounding up the saga, with a well-told narrative that I'm sure will satisfy those that have played through it in its entirety. The one thing that did stand out a little for me this time around, however, were a number of visual and infrequently gizmo snaring bugs still present within the game. which in a way is to be more expected given its recent release. Although I feel this one is more likely due to the trauma of being in a boat with Gizmo at the helm than anything else. Gizmo broke the NPC. Oh. Some people don't have sea legs. This woman just doesn't have legs at all. Nothing too major and serves more of a point of just how smooth the ride has felt up until this expansion than anything to worry about. If you find yourself enjoying the video, please consider dropping it a like and letting me know your thoughts down in the comments, as it really helps the channel. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an upload of all the RPG and MMO greatness to come. With the story concluded, Gizmo once again looked to challenge himself against what the game had to offer in its more endgame focused activities, and with that got a chance to dive into my first strike missions. 10-player instance encounters, taking on engagements with 2 modes of difficulty on offer with the game's challenge mode. Strikes looking to replace the previous raid-style content featured in the previous 2 expansions with quick-fire encounters to overcome for a whole range of loot and achievements, and giving those players looking to team up and take on some punishing PvE content even more to get their teeth stuck into. The decision to base the strikes on already featured fights from the story-driven content allows for going back through the entirety of the game to create more for players, while lacking the originality of having a dedicated standalone experience, such as those featured in the previous expansions, an experience that raiders from other MMOs may be more accustomed to, and for me at least, preferable. Where End of Dragons and frankly Guild Wars 2 in general more than makes up for this is in its meta events. When getting the chance to jump into the Dragon's End meta event, I was utterly blown away with just how insanely epic and entertaining these open world events can be. And that's coming from someone who didn't exactly shy away from the massive meta events already offered in previous expansions. The meta events in End of Dragons are simply some of the expansions and the game's best content for me, and reminded me why this MMO can be such a joy to inhabit, calmly fishing in the middle of an ocean 1 minute, only to find yourself tussling with a massive underwater leviathan the next. End of Dragons feels like the developers know where the game really shines, and so look to provide an up-to-date and flushed-out feeling experience of that gameplay, and as far as I'm concerned does really well. The masteries, although not feeling quite as game-changing as the previous expansion Path of Fire's army of mounts, do a lot to grant quality of life improvements, while giving the player some new gadgets and other utility to enhance their gameplay. And even the mounts themselves, when using the glider boost alongside some of the flying mounts already present in the game. And while I'm on the subject, I want to address something that I said in our last outing when saying this. And the Griffin, at least for now, has been set up to not completely remove the need to use your head while exploring the game's world, as acts more of an advanced glider than a traditional mount. What I didn't show you in the video are the scenes that transpired shortly after uttering those words, than a traditional mount.
Oh my god! What the hell is that? Jesus Christ!
I may have been wrong about that. End of Dragons also provides an addition to the roster of mounts with the new Siege Turtle. Acquiring this mount is once again attached to a series of collections and achievements, which takes the player on a tour of the new expansion zones and content. And I have to say that I love this method, as requires a wide range of alternative content types for completion, whilst pointing players to experiences that they may not yet have had with their time of the expansion. Raising your turtle mount from an egg all the way to its combat-ready adulthood is fun in itself, whilst providing an excellent reward. With the launch of End of Dragons, ArenaNet also provided the players with yet another elite specialization to get stuck into. With Gizmo here, for example, getting a swing at being a necromancer gunslinger. The game now giving players 3 interchangeable specs per class not only keeps things fresh and allows for new modes and possibly roles of gameplay, but also working very well with the game's legendaries that allow for swapping out of stats that would go very well from switching from a power spec to a condition damage type, for example, being able to do both on the fly. At the beginning of this journey into Guild Wars 2, I have to say that I had no idea just how enjoyable and rewarding the experience would be. What started as a deep dive into the core game with a pint-sized hero has grown into a journey across the entirety of the game's plotline and all of the available content. Getting a look at what has kept this now over 10-year-old MMORPG, not only housing a thriving player base, but also what keeps it as one of the top offerings in the genre. And for me, End of Dragons was a great summary of those core features. The open world being filled with so many opportunities to get involved in content that range from chilled to insanely intense. A world that feels rich with character and new and exciting heights to reach. My time with Guild Wars 2 as a whole quite frankly caught me completely by surprise with how enjoyable it's been. Covering both the core game and expansions in these videos, as well as streaming the living world together with some of you, which has been an incredible experience. For those looking to play the game, I would strongly advise taking a look at the Living World seasons, as within some of those content packs is an MMORPG experience that for me is some of the best Guild Wars 2 has to offer. A multitude of added zones, gear, and additional masteries, along with a storyline that's on par with the best storytellers in the genre, and for me the game wouldn't be nearly the same without them. At the end of this journey across the land with our disco enthusiast at the helm, I can't help but look back fondly on the adventure. I said it in the first of the series, Guild Wars 2 will not be for everyone, but if you're a fan of the genre, and now with the Steam release, there has never been a better time to jump into the world that could be filled with so much of what you're looking for in an MMO. But with my experience as an outsider, do you know what a massive component of just how enjoyable this game is? It's you. The community for this game is exceptional, both within the game and its wider community. As a content creator, I would just like to say a huge thank you to each and every one of you. For those that joined me in battle, that laughed when I inevitably made an ass of myself, and for those that just took the time to join me in this journey. And as we look to what might be coming over the horizon next, I want to raise a glass to you all for providing me with an experience that I will never forget. Thank you so much for watching. This journey has been amazing and I'm keen to get your thoughts down in the comments. I want to give a big shout out to the channel members who help in supporting the channel. If you're interested in joining the channel as a member for all sorts of perks and exclusive videos, the info's down in the description. Thanks again and I'll see you guys in the next one.